I'm Audrina.
And this is our documentary on the American Revolution.
Stay tuned.
The first question that concerns us was, what important ideas and major events led to the American Revolution? There were many, but these were the few that majorly took a toll on this revolution. The French and Indian War, the Proclamation of 1763, the Sugar Act, the Currency Act, Committees of Correspondence, the Quartering Act, Stamp Act, Townshend Act, the Boston Massacre, the Tea Act, the Intolerable Act, and the First Continental Congress. The American Revolution War had multiple causes. The American people were fiercely independent, and the British government chose to tax them to recoup losses from the French and Indian War. A series of laws or acts forced harsh taxes on the American people, although they did not have any representation in the British government. Americans started stockpiling weapons and ammunition, and revolutionaries called for an independent America. In the end, the American Revolution grew out of increasing restrictions placed upon the colonies of the British. One interesting side note was that it is estimated that only 1/3 of the colonists were in favor of rebellion. 1/3 continued to side with the British. The last third were neutral concerning the rebellion and break from Great Britain.
Oh!
The next question that concerns us is, who fought in the American Revolution? Well, the American Revolution was fought between the North American colonies and the British, but the French got involved and helped the Americans in the effect towards the end of the Revolution. Back to you.
Oh! The third question we were concerned about was the following: in what year did the American Revolution start and when did it end? Well, it began in 1775 and ended with an American victory in October 1781, but the Treaty of Paris was not signed until 1783. Oh!
Question number 4. What changed after the American Revolution? Well, there were many changes in American life during and after the Revolution, many of which had a large impact on life today. 3 of these changes that the American Republic went through will be discussed in this program. The first change is a change from the Articles of Confederation to the Constitution. This change caused changes in political and social life. The way in which African Americans were treated was a very big change when the new republic was being created. The final change that will be discussed involves the problems that were created between the Federalists and the Republicans and what caused these changes to occur. The switch from the Articles of Confederation to the Constitution caused many changes in American life. The political changes that occurred are numerous. The mode of ratification was changed from requiring every state legislature's approval to requiring approval by 3/4 of states' legislatures. Instead of just one house in the legislature, the Constitution required 2 houses of legislature. Under the Articles of Confederation, there were 1 to 7 delegates representing each state, but in Congress there was only 1 vote per state. Under the Constitution, each senator holds the vote, and in the upper house there are 2 senators per state, and in the lower house there is 1 representative for every 30 people.
The legislature was elected annually by the current legislator under the Articles of Confederation. But when the Constitution was created, senators were chosen by the state legislature for 6-year terms and representatives were chosen by the vote of the citizens for 2-year terms. The Constitution created the executive branch because under the Articles of the Confederation, there was no official executive branch. Under the Constitution, the president is elected by the Electoral College for a 4-year term. The president is given the power to conduct policy, the power of veto, and the power to appoint judges, ambassadors, and officers of departments already established by the legislation. Judiciary issues were generally left up to the particular state to deal with before the Constitution. The court used for disputes between states was Congress. The Constitution created a separate branch called the Judiciary Branch, which consisted of the Supreme Court and smaller courts, which were created by Congress to enforce federal law. The Articles of Confederation allowed the states to be in charge of taxation, and the only way that the national government received money was by requesting it from the states. The Constitution gave the federal government the power of taxation. Congress regulated commerce between other nations with a treaty, but held no power over trade between the states. The Constitution changed the regulation of commerce only in that the states had to get congressional consent regarding the regulation of commerce. These many changes caused the American world to change greatly. There was more of a central government and more national pride because Americans had a government to look up to and to trust. This created a stronger nation and has enabled America to survive through trying situations. Most all Americans were finally openly admitting that slavery was indeed wrong and that if American ideals were going to involve equality, then something must be done. The only problem was that most American slaveholders did not want to give up their slaves. African Americans were beginning to petition and complain that it is not fair that one race should be considered less equal than another. A group of Connecticut African Americans wrote a letter asking the state assembly, in quotes, whether it is consistent with the present claims of the United States to hold so many thousands of the race of Adam, our common father, in perpetual slavery.
To further explain this quote, Americans were having trouble creating reasons that African Americans were mentally inferior to white Americans because of the numerous African Americans who were becoming famous for their intellectual abilities. Benjamin Banneker of Maryland was a famed astronomer, mathematician, and Phyllis Wheatley of Boston was referred to as the African Muse, due to her poetry and the fact that she was the first African American ever to publish a book. Many anti-slavery societies began to form, especially in the North where there was no economic need for slavery, and many immigrants disliked having to compete for jobs with slaves. Although slavery was on its way out of America, African Americans continued to be treated as inferior. Free blacks were denied many rights that the average white man had, such as the right to vote, hold office, serve on jury, or serve in the army. Even though slavery was not abolished in the South, Africans in the North were treated better than they had previously been treated. During and after the XYZ affairs, the Federalists and the Republicans' relationship with each other was completely destroyed. The Federalists had hoped for a huge war with France because they wanted all of the French influence in America to be destroyed. Though Adams spoke of strengthening America's defense methods, he did not plan on engaging in all-out war. Americans were soon enraged with the French when they requested $250,000 simply to open negotiations. The Federalists seemed sure that this was the chance to get their revenge upon the Republicans, and they did so by printing newspapers that said that any Americans who refused to censure France must have a soul black enough to be fit for stratagems and spoils. In quotes. These conflicts of ideas and insulting statements regarding the views of Republicans caused Republicans and Federalists who had previously been friends to cease speaking to each other and avoid one another at all costs. These changes in the American world have had a great effect on American society today. From the changing of the Articles of Confederation to the Constitution, treatment of African Americans to the differences and struggles between Federalists and Republicans, these things have shaped what is known today as the United States of America. Without the past that America has, she would not be the nation that she is today. Back to you, Julia and Kristen.
Thank you for your time.
I hope this presentation answered any questions you were hoping to have answered.
We hope you enjoyed learning about the American Revolution.
Till next time, I'm Julia.
I'm Kristen.
And I'm Audrina.
Reporting live from our headquarters in Los Angeles, California.